Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Monday, May 2nd, 2022. I'm Jer Stays, and across the table from me is
Fletcher Sharpe.
Good to see you, sir.
Likewise.
Busy day in the sports world, huh?
If you're a fan of Detroit sports, you have a lot of news you need to be catching up on. So thankfully, that's why we're here.
Yeah, let's do it. First off, breaking news as we're recording this, Detroit City FC has picked up Karl Ouimette from Indy in a loan. Now, for our more casual sports fans, it might be a little confusing that we're loaning a player from another team in our conference. So let's talk about that really quick.
Players want to play. Like, it doesn't really matter where a player is coming from, especially if it's a player in your own league. Karl Ouimette is kind of a legend for Indy 11. He's played a lot of games, played a lot of big games, made some big moments, but he's kind of aged out in terms of being useful for them. So he's made 2 appearances this league season, and I'm sure he wants to play more, and there's a team in the division who needs people. So they worked out a deal to where he will be spending the rest of his season with Detroit, and at the end of the season's time, unless he decides he wants to stay and Detroit wants to keep him, and they work out an agreement, he'll be going back to Indy 11.
Yeah, that is something that is unique to soccer. We've talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to put that out there right off the bat because some of our newer fans, sometimes it's good to give them a little bit of light as to how things work in this sport.
I mean, it's a pretty easy way and pretty good way you typically see with younger players, but also sometimes players who are a bit older who have fallen out of rotations. It's kind of what happened to Declan Wynn last year. He spent a lot of his time on loan from Phoenix to the point to where the team that he was with decided they wanted to keep him for a year because he was playing so well. So yeah, maybe hopefully Karl does the same thing where he's on loan with us. He eats his minutes well as a center back. He probably won't be seeing too many starting, but when he gets in, he plays well. He fits well with the system as he used to play with Trevor James when Trevor was the manager at Indy 11.
Well, Ouimette has an interesting pedigree, including some time spent in Major League Soccer with really colorful incidents.
Yeah, he used to play for the New York Red Bull. He spent some time with the Canadian national team. For those who follow the USL soccer, he is most mainly known as the guy who was kicked by Romeo Parks. His one appearance for New York Red Bull in 2016 against the Pittsburgh River Hounds in a 3-1 win. Ouimette and Parks got into a bit of a scuffle and pushing match. Near the end of the game, the 87th minute, the referee decided both of them should not play anymore, gave them both red cards, and as Ouimette turned to walk off the field, he said something to Romeo Parks, who beckoned at him like, what? And Romeo Parks decided that he did not like what was said and kicked Ouimette in his spine, studs up with his cleats. Thankfully, Ouimette was not paralyzed, only suffering a back contusion, but Romeo Parks was suspended for 6 months, not by USL, but by FIFA.
Ooh.
So that meant that he could not play soccer for 6 months, period. Whether it's in the US, whether it's somewhere else. Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they were like, yeah, no, immediately canceling his contract to the point where the owner tweeted out soon after, we are so sorry to Karl Ouimette and New York Red Bull too. We are not about that. Romeo Parks bounced back. He apologized to everybody, including Ouimette directly. I made sure to make a point of that in 2020, where he's like, I definitely apologized to him by now. Romeo Parks is currently playing for FC Miami, so there's a chance we will be seeing him later on, hopefully with much different reactions than the first time they saw each other.
All right, let's talk about that Red Bulls 2 match. As we said in the social media wrap-up, this is a game that honestly isn't pretty to win, but we won it.
Yeah, New York Red Bull 2 led the league in tackles completed, which is a good stat to show whether the game's going to be chippy or not, if the team's going to be getting in your face. And Red Bull wasted no time getting in Detroit's face while Detroit tried to go wide to the middle and counter. Red Bull were like, hey, do all the stuff you want to do. I'm putting a foot right here. We're taking the ball. And they showed it very much so with their young center back pairing of Juan Castillo and Lucas Monzon. Castillo, which is Spanish for castle, and he played like one back there, showing that he was a wall. He was not letting anyone get by, and if they did, he was taking the ball immediately. And Monzon, Spanish for monsoon, showing with also dogged determination and quick movement that he was going to get in front of every single long ball possible and make life very hard for our forwards coming up the sides of the field.
Rouge was able to pull things off after the entrance of their subs, Michael Bryant. Huge, pleasant surprise this year. You see Francis Atuahene scoring his first goal, which, although it wasn't the prettiest goal, sometimes you just got to get a goal to kind of get the ball rolling. That is something that I've wanted for Francis for a long time, to see him put something in the net. This was, I think, a great sign for a team that is going to need its bench to step up going forward. We saw on the field with Hopino cramping up. We saw Pato get banged up a little bit. Those subs are going to be important.
More and more this season, Michael Bryant is becoming the Swiss Army knife off the bench who can play wing back, can play some center back, can play some center mid, most useful in the center mid. And he showed his versatility and how much he's needed by stepping up for that goal, making a great defensive play to take the ball off of the Red Bull midfielder, to get it out to Reese, who sent it across to Francis, who scored his first goal in almost 2 years, his last goal coming for San Diego Loyal in 2020. Very happy for him, because you could tell that he was stressed. He was leading the league in shots per 90 minutes at averaging about 5.5, which really means you come on the field only to shoot. It means I'm on the field. Guess what? Ball's from my foot towards the net, hoping it goes in, but probably not. So glad to see him finally get something. Glad to see him involved in the second goal as well, with a nice aimed cross that, unfortunately for them, Lucas Monzon swept into the net. If not, Billy Forth would have been there probably to poke it in. But it's good to see Francis finally getting positive results, because he had a lot of stats that were kind of empty stats, where it's shots or dribbles completed, maybe something here, but nothing that's resulted in positive play. So to see him finally be on the end of some positive play for Detroit is encouraging, hopefully going forward.
Ouimette's going to be a big part of this too, because in their scheme, you and I were talking off air, DCFC really needs more in their center back core.
Yeah, Michael Bryant can play center back, but he's a center mid. He played center back for Cal United Strikers FC, and that was mainly because they just didn't have many center backs, and they needed him on the field for talent. Detroit doesn't really have that issue, so they can afford to play him at his normal spot. Ouimette will be sliding in as a center back, probably not starting over any of the three, as the three center backs Detroit have are ranked in the top 50 for the league. Would make zero sense to pull one of them out of a starting spot for some guy on loan. But Ouimette can provide coverage. If one of them gets a little tired in the game, he can slide in. When you're playing three center backs at the back, as Detroit normally is, and they're, I guess, more of a 5-2-3 formation, you're going to need more center backs. If you're playing a traditional 4-4-2, where you have two in the middle, two center backs as opposed to three, you can afford to maybe carry 4, maybe 5 on your roster. But if you're going to play 3 at the back, you need to have at least 5, maybe 6 people who can definitely play center back in case someone gets hurt, in case there's a suspension, any other reason. Another key thing to point at is Detroit continuing something that Trevor James has kind of prided himself on. Currently, they are number 1 in the league for least bookings, 13 yellow cards in the entire season.
That's huge.
It is huge, because you're not missing key players. That means everyone's getting 1 or 2 in a season, but no one's picking up 4, 5, 6. You don't have... There are teams with 30 yellow cards now. You don't have teams you don't have players who you need to count on, who are gone because they let their temper get the best of them. So that's a very good sign to see them able to keep their composure and not crumble to their own emotion.
We're headed to Tulsa on Saturday. Thoughts?
Tulsa typically is a decent team. They were a playoff team last year. Unfortunately, they did not do well, as they ran into Tampa Bay, who smacked them down. They are led by J.J. Williams with 4 goals, also by Gabriel Torres, their left back, and Rodrigo da Costa, who during the past year posted a 17.5 goal plus assist rating, which is top 15 in the championship. He's kind of like their go guy. He's their put the battery in him, and he's the one who kind of lets them go. A name that I know many Detroit fans don't really want to hear, and I know they'll act like they're fine hearing the name. There are 3 names in Detroit City FC lore, if you've been following for a while, that make people uncomfortable. Tate Doublebird Schmidt of AFC Cleveland, Vinny Bell of AFC Cleveland / Cleveland FC or SC, and the name I'm mentioning now, Pride of Cuba, former international player by way of AFC Ann Arbor, Dario Suarez, who is one of the most electrifying players I've seen with my own eyes, just covering soccer in this state. When he's on the ball, everyone pays attention. And I know Detroit City FC fans, the ones who've been for a very long time, say, well, we have a winning record against them. Just barely. Even though he's only having kind of a down season, 1 goal, 1 assist so far in 8 games, he's always someone who is looking for the bright moment to make a great play. And he has plenty of them against Detroit in the past. So I'm sure fans really want to make sure they get this win, especially over him, because you like beating your most hated people, quote unquote.
Do you think this is one we're going to pull off?
They should, yes. I know that they're still a little winded. We got to see really what's up with Maxi, what's up with Hopino, what's up with Pato, because they all came off with different injuries or just being tired. So we want to make sure they're okay first. But I think if they are full strength enough, Tulsa's coming in off a 4-game losing streak, including their U.S. Open Cup match. All 4 games they've lost, they've given up at least 2 goals. I think that they're kind of licking their wounds right now. So I think this would be a ripe chance to go in there and take 3 points.
Dunwell's not going to be there either.
No, he's gone for a minute.
Brad Dunwell, just so people know.
He's been seen on crutches at events, and he's also been seen I know when they scored their goal against New York Red Bull, he was saw celebrating with the team, not with his crutches on, but that was really more so of I'm here, I'm happy. But in terms of stabilizing and making sure he's okay, he's in a full leg cast, crutches, and probably done for this month. We'll probably see him next month. I don't expect to see Brad Dunwell playing any soccer in May. If it is, maybe it's the last day of May or something, which stinks given the fact that he was actually playing so well when he went out. But it's good that at least we'll get to see him back before the season's over as opposed to, next season.
So I was going to ask you about Louisville City, considering that that's the next Open Cup game, but I feel like this kind of wraps into a whole bigger conversation. As I pull up the USL Championship League standings right now and read them, DCFC is in 2nd place. That has caused a lot of consternation and pearl clutching from USL pundits who can't believe that this team is doing what it's doing. And I think there's been some goalposts moving throughout this. I think you agree with some of the commentators. And I want to have a level set, real conversation. Our listeners know that we don't sugarcoat stuff. Let's talk about where the team actually is. It was like a real conversation.
Well, I've been advised to not name drop who the specific media person is, so I won't. But I will say the specific media person, while saying things that are correct, has moved the goalposts a few times, starting with let's see Detroit win a game away from home before they went to Atlanta and slapped Atlanta down 4-0. Let's see them beat a big club before they beat Columbus Crew. Let's see them win it from a home again after being tired, which they did against Hartford. And now let's see them beat a team who has a winning record above them. And okay, sure, that's totally fine. The things he's saying are not incorrect. It would be great to see Detroit beat a team that is currently in the playoff hunt. That'd be a great thing to see. It'd be great to see them beat a top tier team in the league. Totally great. But to act like they've done nothing this season, it's weird. It's a very weird mindset to have. And I'm not one to go for the grass for the whole Detroit versus everyone type of thing. But if you were this could be a feather you could stick at that cap, because it seems very odd that they're being judged not as an expansion team, but as a regular team when the other expansion team in the league is currently getting the tar kicked out of them every single week. So, I mean, if we're just going off of just being a regular team, these are fair things to say, but being an expansion team that people expected to be terrible, 2nd place, no matter who you played against so far, that's good. Obviously, the season's not over. You can't, pull a stop the count moment and be like, oh, season's over. Let's go to playoffs now. But they're playing well for who they've played against and getting results out of it. As long as you get results out and you are able to maintain your position, I think you're fine. So
I'm fully aware that there are going to be ups and downs with this. To me, if you get into the playoffs, that's a win for a first-year team. Right now, there's a large percentage chance that we're going to do that. So everything else above that is gravy, in my opinion. But I think June is going to tell us a bit more. We rematch Pittsburgh, the Riverhounds, and we play a quality side in Sacramento Republic FC.
Yeah, when the Riverhounds initially played against Detroit, they were not really sputtering per se, but they were still trying to figure some stuff out. They had Kennardo Forbes and Dane Kelly, who respectively lead the USL history, not just the league, in goals and assists. Kennardo Forbes is coming alive, getting the ball out left and right to people. Dane Kelly is currently leading the Eastern Conference in goals scored with 6. Albert Dikwa is right after him, a teammate with 4. So they have a strike force up there. They have people finally putting the ball in the goal. So that's something to worry about, especially because Dikwa did score against Detroit, albeit on a very janky goal. Sacramento is doing pretty well on the West Coast as well. So these are teams that will show how ready Detroit is. I think the Louisville U.S. Open Cup match is a good game for a barometer as well. I would not be sad if they lost that game just based off the fact they need to rest. But obviously, when as a player, you want to go out there and win every single game that's put in front of you. They'd rather play every single game possible, win every single game, because if you win every single game possible, you're going to come home with some hardware.
And I want to be clear here. I think we can do this. Like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I just think we need to have a much better conversation about where we're at.
Oh, definitely true. And I mean, again, the commentator's comments aren't necessarily wrong. It's just you can't keep building off of saying something. Okay, well, why don't you score 1 goal? Okay, well, why don't you score 4? They're doing the things you're saying that they're doing. You're not giving them credit for doing them. It's then moving the goalposts afterwards, which frustrates me because if you can say, all right, I was wrong here, but now do this, instead of just saying do this and do this and do this, at least then you're acknowledging, all right, you guys are capable. And again, I think people are holding up the barometer of DCFC not being an expansion club, which they are. And I know a lot of opposing fans are doing the same because a lot of them expected Detroit to crash and burn coming into the league. It's like, well, they're going to be bad because they just aren't a good team, and we're going to find out that NISA's not really a really real league, and they're the NISA All-Stars, and they're terrible. And right now they're in second place over most of those teams and fan bases who've been talking about them, and they're like, well, they haven't played anybody. That's not the point, because you said the USL Championship was such a better league than NISA was. They could take a tomato can from your league and be better than one of NISA's champions. And we're finding out that's very much not the case. So give the team the respect they've earned. Do they still have more miles to go? Definitely. But like they've been doing things. Do I think that they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference right now? Record-wise, yes. Team-wise, probably not. I think Tampa Bay is still a better team than them, top to bottom in terms of talent. But they're playing better than Tampa Bay right now. So like I got to give them the credit's due. You got to praise people for what they're doing right now, not for what they could do or what they didn't do in the past.
All right, let's switch to the women's side. Their season starts on Saturday at 7:30 at Keyworth against Kalamazoo FC. For the uninitiated, what are some players to watch on the women's team?
You have Becca Prisbillo, who was in net the first time they got their first win of their entire career against Lansing. You have returning leading goal scorer Kennedy White, who is a tall, rangy player. Kind of plays a bit like Pato, if you're wondering for comparisons, but is a bit less wasteful in front of the net than he is. You also have Megan Miles on D, Madison Duncan in the midfield. So you have some players returning who can be helpful. Unlike the men, unfortunately, the women's team faces a bit of an uphill battle. Maybe not against Kalamazoo coming up, as Kalamazoo is kind of a new team as well. But Ann Arbor, Midwest United, Flint City AFC, who've partnered with Corktown AFC, all have very big established teams, not even including Racing Louisville, who've been around for quite some time. So they'll be facing a bit of an uphill battle this season. I would expect them to compete in every single game, maybe except for the Midwest United games, because Midwest United are essentially a pro team. They have people whose names you will be hearing if you watch professional women's soccer. They have at least 4 or 5 players who've gone to play pro, one of them making the national team in Bethany Bellacore. But I expect them to compete this season. They have a talented roster. It's just they're probably looking against much more experienced teams. So I'm not going to say don't get your hopes up, but I will say keep your expectations in check.
Right, but cheering will be important.
Definitely. They will need it just as much as the men will. They play at Keyworth, if you're wondering where, so there's no excuse of I don't know where the women's field is. It's at the same place as the men's, same jerseys, same everything. So get out there when you can to support them because they definitely will need it.
Yeah, and the regular season ends by mid-July. So it's a much shorter season, and it looks like they're playing basically, on average, 2 games a week.
It's a kind of an accelerated season. You should get together to support them soon because most likely the women's league will be moving towards the pro stages pretty soon. So these will be probably seeing some more names besides the ones that you've come to know and love. Before we finish the episode, I did want to make a note to wish everyone who took part in Ramadan a blessed Eid Mubarak to everyone who completed their Ramadan fast. I know that it was very tough for myself, so I'm sure probably a little bit tough for other people as well. And I'm sure that feast yesterday was really great. If no one says it, I'm proud of you for finishing. And again, Eid Mubarak to those who celebrate. I know Jair had something also really, really important that he wanted to share as well.
Yeah, we're doing our 1000th episode happy hour. It's going to be on June 10th, 2022. That is a Friday night at the Congregation from 5 to 8 p.m. That's at 9321 Rosa Parks, just north of Claremont. Fletcher, I'm excited. I mean, we're at like episode 973 or something of this thing.
Yeah, I didn't really realize how many episodes had been done when I was added onto the roster. But I can definitely say since I've been a part, they've at least done like 500 or so. So it's been very a quick rapid fire of episodes. So yeah, we might be coming up on it a lot sooner than I expected it to be.
Well, it should be a fun time out there. We will have both indoor and outdoor options because, the world. The other thing is, too, is when we did our studio open house, we learned that it'll be really nice to have somebody else take care of the drinks and things.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be a nice experience. It'll be a chance if you are there to actually get a chance to talk to people you listen to every day. So if you are someone who wants to take advantage of that, I recommend getting down there and doing so.
Well, with that, I'm Jair Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharpe.
Remember to take care of each other, that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.